Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're unpacking a seriously fascinating historical mystery. We're exploring a moment in 7th century history where a seemingly unfavorable, highly restrictive peace treaty actually altered the course of the world. We're going to be diving into the 48th chapter of the Quran, known as Surah Al-Fath, and analyzing exactly how classical texts and modern academic journals understand this pivotal moment. Okay, let's dive into this. The core paradox of the Treaty of Hudaybiyyah is this massive tension between apparent defeat and actual victory. Just imagine being part of a completely peaceful expedition, totally unarmed, only to get blocked from your destination and forced to sign an agreement that heavily favors your opponents. On paper, it looks like a total loss, but history and the source text we are examining today tell a remarkably different story. Immediately following the signing of this treaty, the opening verse of Surah Al-Fath was revealed, and the text boldly states, "Indeed, we have granted you a clear triumph." Just like that, it instantly reframes this blocked journey and tense negotiation. Notice it doesn't call it a compromise or a setback. It boldly declares it an ultimate, undeniable triumph. Now, you might be wondering, how did people react? Well, this divine reframing was initially very hard for the people on the ground to swallow. Our sources impartially report that early followers were deeply conflicted. According to classical commentaries like Tafsir ibn Kathir, prominent figures like Umar bin al-Khattab initially felt deeply defeated by the treaty's terms. And it makes sense, right? They questioned why they should accept what felt like a degrading compromise when they firmly believed they were on the right path. To really get this, we have to look closely at the word al-Fath itself. While it generally translates to the victory, the source material brilliantly redefines victory in this specific context. It wasn't about a clash of swords or conquering land by force. No, it was a bloodless, peaceful treaty achieved through intense negotiation. This redefinition of victory as a triumph of strategic peace is absolutely crucial to everything else we're covering today. Section 1. Context of the treaty. The road to Hudaybiyyah. If we walk chronologically through these historical events, we see that in the 6th year of the Hijrah, Prophet Muhammad had a dream about performing the pilgrimage, or Umrah. During the sacred month of Dhul-Qa'dah, a time when fighting was strictly forbidden in Arabia, he and 1,400 companions began a peaceful journey. But days later, they were intercepted. This led to a massive standoff and the eventual treaty at Hudaybiyyah. It required immense patience. But as the timeline shows, exactly 1 year later, they returned for a successful, completely peaceful pilgrimage. This wasn't just a matter of blind faith, folks. It was literally a masterclass in strategy. The journey was deliberately timed during a sacred month to signal peaceful intentions. But the Prophet also employed brilliant situational awareness. He actually appointed the Bani Ka'b tribe to act as secret agents for intelligence gathering. When they discovered that the opposing forces, the Quraysh, had mobilized armed troops at Dituwa, the Prophet proactively altered their route through really difficult terrain just to avoid a violent confrontation. So the crucial takeaway here is that by avoiding this armed trap, the Prophet maintained the strictly peaceful nature of the mission. Strategic foresight prevented a war they absolutely did not want and successfully bypassed a deadly provocation. Section 2. The Quranic balances, academic perspectives. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it transitions us right into the academic analysis from the IJRS journal. Modern scholarship reveals structural state-building elements hidden right in the text. This breakdown explores what researchers call muwazanats, or Quranic balances. Notice how firmness is perfectly balanced with mercy, creating compassionate restraint. Peace is balanced with power, showing that avoiding war is actually a projection of true strength. And steadfastness is balanced with review, meaning you keep your eyes locked on the long-term goal while staying totally flexible with your immediate day-to-day tactics. The researchers conclude that strategic peace was a highly conscious choice. It was specifically designed to achieve what the text calls a near conquest. You see, avoiding war at Hudaybiyyah wasn't a sign of military weakness at all. Rather, it was a calculated political maneuver to ensure the future growth and security of the entire community. Section 3. State and Nation Building. The Treaty of Hudaybiyyah fundamentally legitimized the Muslims as a recognized political power. Before this moment, opponents simply viewed them as rebels. Think about it. While the treaty felt highly restrictive to the companions, it practically forced the Quraysh to officially recognize them as a legitimate, equal entity on the world stage. That is a massive paradigm shift. The academic view outlines 3 distinct steps the text takes for building a resilient nation capable of surviving massive transformations. First up, psychological preparation, meaning instilling inner peace. Second, social construction, solidified through a famous historical pledge of allegiance under a tree. And finally, military and organizational qualification, essentially forming a solid collective structure that could withstand intense external pressures. To illustrate that very first step, psychological preparation, take a look at verse 4. He is the one who sent down serenity upon the hearts of the believers so that they may increase even more in their faith. This concept of serenity, or sakina, was the absolute bedrock of their discipline. Without this kind of psychological stability, the tense standoff at Hudaybiyyah would have easily devolved into a chaotic, bloody battle.
Section 4. Timeless Leadership Lessons. And this brilliantly illustrates how this 7th century history connects directly to modern leadership principles. Looking at an analysis from the companion article, we can actually derive 4 timeless secrets to success from this single event. Number 1, sheer obedience to guidance, even when the risks seem incredibly high. Number 2, situational awareness and proactive planning, just like we saw with that altered route. Number 3, unwavering devotion to leadership. And number 4, forgiveness and restraint, especially when the opposing side is actively trying to provoke you. To back up that third point about devotion, the companion shares a really fascinating historical anecdote. An opposing emissary, Urwa bin Masud, visited the Muslim camp to negotiate. When he went back to his people, he reported, "Never have I seen any people so devoted to a king as the companions of Muhammad are to him." That right there proves the sheer level of internal cohesion and unwavering loyalty these early Muslims possessed under immense pressure. But honestly, perhaps the most difficult lesson here is restraint. The Muslim camp faced several provocations clearly designed to start a fight. Forgiveness in the face of these provocations ensured the ultimate objective survived. If they had reacted impulsively to enemy taunts, it would have broken the sacred month's rules and completely destroyed their long-term goal of peace and legitimacy. Section 5. The ultimate growth and metaphor. As we move to the final verses of Surah Al-Fath, the text uses a stunning resolution to tie all these concepts together. It ends with a beautiful agricultural metaphor, describing the community as a seed that sprouts its tiny branches, making it strong to the delight of the planters. It's such a vivid image, perfectly representing a community that after a period of dormancy, restriction, and incredible patience, finally flourishes and stands firmly on its own. Which brings us to the central thesis of our explainer today. The story of Surah Al-Fath teaches us that apparent defeats are very often hidden victories. They just require immense patience and farsightedness. You know, true victory doesn't always look like an immediate, crushing win. Sometimes it looks exactly like a compromise that quietly builds the rock-solid foundation for an unstoppable future. So, I want to leave you with this final thought. Look at your own challenges. How can you apply this historical principle of strategic restraint to turn your own apparent setbacks into long-term victories? The next time you face what looks like a defeat, ask yourself, could this just be the seed of a future triumph? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.